Can you imagine what your personal life would be like if you could say to your wife or husband, I'm sorry, that's classified? Where were you last night? I'm sorry, that's classified. I'm not able, I wish I could tell you, but I simply can't. My hands are tied. Mike Lee points out that this is one of the biggest, most common tactics of the deep state, Senator Mike Lee. And imagine the things that we could discover and should be able to discover. So let's talk about some ways to fight overclassification. Let's start, though, with Pete Hegseth. Hegseth made a promise to the American people, and I hope this is one he can carry out. I'd rather I'm not going around making promises he can't keep. This is during President Trump's first cabinet meeting.
Well, it's a question we've thought a lot about. We're doing a complete review of every single aspect of what happened with the botched withdrawal of Afghanistan, and plan to have full accountability. It's one of the first things we announced at the Defense Department for that reason, sir. Certainly, General Raisin Kane, who's on his way in, was not a part of that. Instead, was a part of leading the effort against ISIS by untying the hands of warfighters and finishing the job properly, and then bringing our troops home. So we're taking a very different view, obviously, than the previous administration, and there will be full accountability.
I don't see big promotions in that group, and I think they're going to be largely gone. I know the man on my left. I think they're going to be largely gone.
Oh, that's such a Donald Trump line. Every now and then, I do actually find him charming, and I'm not a popcorn and politics guy. The stakes are so high, so we would get a lot of great information if we got to actually look into the conversations that went on. I want to know how many lawyers were involved in telling the people Hegseth calls our warfighters that, no, you can't, these bombers who are driving towards the airports, you don't get to do that. I want the names of the attorneys. And I would like to very much, look, revenge belongs to the Lord. But wouldn't it, here I am saying it would be fun. It would be educational. I think it would be educational for those attorneys before they ever get to do this stuff. They ever get to make calls on our warfighters from comfy leather chairs in Washington, D.C. I think every single one of them should have to do a ride-along with people who are being chased by terrorists lobbing rocket-propelled grenades at them. Because they might have a different, their view of the law might change. But we're probably not going to get to see those conversations, though we should. Mike Lee, Senator Lee, is a great senator, replying to a tweet from Dominic Michael Trippi, who is an independent journalist, breaking: FBI whistleblower confirms to journalist Michael Schellenberger that FBI employees are destroying evidence related to Jeffrey Epstein's files and JFK assassination. Mike Lee writes, this is an overclassification. He writes, this is why overclassification is a thing. It allows the deep state to destroy evidence and otherwise prevent the truth from reaching the American public. I've been lied to more times than I can count by people who hide behind "this is a classified" routine. Again, apply it to your personal life. Ain't gonna wash. So let's go through some specific ways that we could fight this, and specific ways it could make some difference against this massive, massive, massive corruption. And corruption is everywhere right now. It is particularly in our monetary system. Do you know how many big, huge companies got your money during the COVID shutdowns and got to use that money to go purchase small storefronts and homes and even large shopping centers at dimes on the dollar? Illegally, by the way. That money was given to them illegally. As they go through and start cleaning up the corruption, USAID style, and all these NGOs, they should also be looking into that. And man, I hope they get to audit the Fed. You want to talk secrets, deep state secrets? My friend Zach Abraham, Chief Investment Officer, Board Capital Management, has been saying for years that the Fed could be used to monetize anything, to pay for any black ops project. And he's doing a free live webinar coming up this month, in March. So it's March 25th, 3:30 Pacific. And March is a month that's going to be the 100th day that the president's in office. It's called the first 100 days. Zach's going to talk about what he thinks is coming in a Trump economy, how the empire's going to fight back, and how you can be prepared for retirement. Consider a Department of Retirement Efficiency, and it's free. Go register. You have to just sign up. It's knowyourriskradio.com, K-N-O-W, knowyourriskradio.com. Investment advisory services offered through Trek Financial LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor. Investments involve risk and are not guaranteed. Past performance does not guarantee future results. Trek 25-137. Let's start with one predicate. Whose information is it anyways? It's ours. So as I've said many times and continue to stand by, they should have to specifically state which information they're trying to hide. It should say, we're hiding sources or methods, and if they check all the boxes, it should go to a congressional review. And let the parties argue over this. But the default setting on everything not related to current intelligence projects and current criminal investigations should be open. It should be stored in the cloud. We should be able to, anytime we want to, go read the emails of office holders. Anytime you and I want, we should be able to go pop into a conference call. We should be able to conference call surf. We should be able to surf meetings in Congress. Behind closed doors, I don't care. We should be able to go in and say, hey, let's see what Nancy Pelosi's doing in her conference room today. And clearly they'd try to get around that, and so you make getting around it a felony. This is a crazy, crazy little bit of video of a guy who helped hide these things. This is James Comey. Now watch this and you're listening to this really closely.
It's hard to imagine 2 FBI agents ending up in the sit room. How did that happen?
I sent them.
He sent them to General Flynn's office.
Something I probably wouldn't have done or maybe gotten away with in a more organized investigation, a more organized administration, in the George W. Bush administration, for example, or the Obama administration. The protocol, 2 men that all of us have perhaps increased appreciation for.
Listen to the smuggery of this guy in his purple-ish jacket and pinkish shirt, Comey.
Over the last 2 years. And in both of those administrations, there was process. And so if the FBI wanted to send agents into the White House itself to interview a senior official, you would work through the White House counsel, and there'd be discussions and approvals and who would be there.
In other words, you were working with people who understood that you're there to get them into perjury traps. You were working with people who were deep state enough to know what deep state does, Jimmy. And do you see and hear the smugness in this man? And he's being applauded for this?
I thought it's early enough. Let's just send a couple guys over.
Oh, you're so clever, Jimmy.
And so we placed a call to Flynn, said, hey, we're sending a couple guys over. Hope you'll talk to them. He said, sure. Nobody else was there. They interviewed him in a conference room at the White House Situation Room, and he lied to them.
No, you're a liar. You are a disgusting, disgusting piece of human filth. Pardon me, Lord. I'm sorry. The tongue is a two-edged sword. I apologize, Lord. That's your job to call him useless. That's your determination to make. Because when they came back, those 2 original guys came back and said, we didn't see any deception. So you followed up with a guy who was actively at that time committing adultery with his adulterous lover, Lisa Page, Pete Strzok, who went over to, quote, see if he could get him to lie. I want every email and every text message. Oh, but wait. The deep state said, oh, we lost all those text messages. We lost the text messages between Strzok and Page. You lost the backups and the backups of the backups and the printouts of the backups of the backups. So let's talk again about the deep state. Losing evidence is not allowed. You have backups. You have printed backups. You have backups to the printed backups. You have images. You have images stored at multiple locations. Losing it's a felony because you don't get to do that anymore. If you look at what's been going on with our money in USAID, you can start to track down how a bunch of it ended up in the hands of organizations like Hamas.
Let's use Gaza as our case study. $2.1 billion in American taxpayers' money to Gaza since October 7th when Hamas invaded southern Israel. USAID money was going in terms of an emergency use authorization to try to go to parties that USAID formerly had a relationship with in the Gaza Strip. They had to have been vetted by OFAC. They should have been vetted against the special designated terror list from the State Department and from other Treasury organizations. Waivers were granted because they said that there was an emergency use to have that money come in to Gaza, thereby jettisoning the usual typical screening procedures. As a result, 90% of aid that was going from the United States by way of its agents in Gaza ended up in Hamas-controlled areas. And this is ridiculous. Essentially, what the U.S. assistance to Gaza did was underwrite the ability for Hamas to survive until the ceasefire was just passed a few weeks ago. There was no strategic thought for it, and there was no screening.
Again, apply this to your personal life. Just try it. Hey, honey, what happened to that beautiful diamond necklace I saw laying out the other day on the bedroom table? It somehow ended up on the neck of the neighbor lady. Well, how'd that happen? Well, see, there's this NGO. Try it. And what they're cheating on is as serious as a marriage, because God has put them in these leadership roles. He allows them to be there. To whom much is given, much is expected. And rest assured, he knows all the motives. He does monitor the talk. So let's talk again about classified information. If you decide to be an entity that takes government funding, you are liable to FOIA requests. You have to respond to them. You want government money? Act like the government. We get to read all of your emails. We get to look into all of your conference rooms. Or don't take government money. You choose. I mean, if you've got nothing to hide, you got nothing to fear. Tim Burchett in Congress asked if this emergency aid was somehow being used to kill civilians.
The emergency might have been armed terrorists to kill civilians. Would that be accurate?
That's accurate, and even more than that, Samantha Powers, the administrator for USAID, was intent on having Israel not be able to defend itself.
To not be able to defend it.
Correct.
There is this as well. This guy kind of describes something that he referred to as a self-feeding lobbying machine. Again, it's all classified. And hey, it wasn't us, it was some NGOs. USAID gave it to NGOs. NGOs, you decide. Take government money, you show us everything you have. We get to watch your meetings. Every one of your emails belongs to us, or don't take government money.
USAID effectively self-funds its own external private lobby that then goes back to Congress and asks for more money for USAID.
So the taxpayers fund this lobbyist who's working against American interests.
Correct.
Possibly our allies and possibly Americans.
They bring together groups in Washington that overseas work with groups that kill Americans.
Yeah, I don't need a flow chart to show that.
That's a great response. The deep state saying it's classified no longer works. Active intelligence investigations, active criminal investigations, okay, period. Everything else goes up on the cloud. Have you noticed this panic that the White House Correspondents Association isn't going to control who gets into the room anymore? That's very much like making it classified. Because, of course, they're all of one ideological point of view. Brian Stelter, the move tears at the independence of a free press in the United States. It suggests the government will choose journalists who cover the president. In a free country, leaders must not be able to choose their journalists. Funny thing. You can look at the planned in advance questions for figurehead Biden like one he's holding in his hand here for a reporter. And you can also know this. A free press sometimes has disagreements within that free press, and a free press actually chases down stories. They do not participate in the system that existed under the figurehead of pre-planned questions so that the figurehead could prepare and pretend to be answering them. I just remind everybody, God sees every single bit of this.